6 homes were lost. The once picturesque region charred black and hollowed out. Many in the area believe the fires were started on purpose and left a lot of residents confused and disappointed in the police investigation. Now, in a moment, we will bring you to the press conference at RCMP headquarters in St. John's. And as soon as that starts, we will bring you live there. Inspector Adam Palmer, the officer in charge of investigative support services for the Federal Police Service, will provide an update, followed by questions from the media. We will bring all of that to you live here on CBC. But first, I want to bring in my colleague, Zach Gowdy, who joins us here in the studio. You know, it's been a year since nearly 200 homes were lost. I mean, some people experienced 25 days of evacuation. I mean, tell me, Zach, what was it like?
Really, last summer was a tale of 2 different wildfire seasons, Colleen, depending on what part of the province you were in. For people throughout Newfoundland and Labrador, it was a historically hot summer. People were taking all kinds of measures, reducing water consumption, prohibiting open fires. People everywhere were experiencing that part of the story. But for people in Conception Bay North, there was another more insidious element to what was going on, as many people there strongly suspected that fires in their region were being deliberately set. Now, as you said, this story begins in early May when you start to see some of the first wildfires in that region. And after one of those early May fires in the town of Adams Cove, people there began to strongly suspect that something was afoot, that something untoward was happening, that these fires were being deliberately set in some way. They started taking concrete actions, forming citizens' patrols, regular people going out on their ATVs into the woods, looking for smoke, looking for signs of evidence, and they were finding that evidence over and over again. Throughout the next coming months, several fires, about 10 more fires really, occurred in that region, and in most cases, if not all cases, were reported to the RCMP. But many people, as you said there, believe that police response to those reports was slow. You had some people, again, the CBC reporter, really, Ryan Cook, who was at this press conference waiting for it to begin. He did incredible work bringing some of these stories to light. Ryan uncovered 2 stories of people who found on their own what they felt were homemade, we're calling them incendiary devices. But if you've seen these pictures,
right, yeah.
There were cans that had dried grass and hay stuck out of them, almost like wicks.
Yeah, like
right?
almost like these little fire starters, really.
Exactly, like little fire starters, right? And in 2 separate cases, things like that were found at the sites of fires, and the people who found them tried to bring them to the RCMP, but the evidence was slow to be collected. In both of those cases, it was only after the major Kingston wildfire, the one that everybody remembers, erupted on August 3rd, only after that did RCMP officers collect that evidence. In another case uncovered by CBC reporter Ryan Cook, he spoke to a gentleman who had CCTV footage, so his own closed-circuit camera television footage, his own security camera video that he thought was relevant to one of these fires, made several calls to the police over several successive days trying to get their attention, trying to get someone to collect this evidence, but no one came. After the major fire erupts, this frustrated gentleman tries to walk the camera card into a police press conference that's happening in St. John's, tries to get some attention in that way. So this was the lengths that people were going to in CBS to bring some attention to this story, Conception Bay North, rather, excuse me. That same gentleman who tried to bring the CCTV card into the police press conference, in another incredible chapter in this story that was really full of them, days after the fire in Kingston has begun and this person's house is surrounded by flames, he told the story of a police helicopter landing on his lawn and only then an officer coming out to collect the camera that was attached to his house. So this was the kind of thing that was happening in Conception Bay North. People in the rest of the province were not aware of these details until several weeks after the big CBN fire broke out. And only then did we realize there was another more insidious layer to this story that the rest of us were not aware of.
So, you know, Zach, you know, we've heard that frustration, that confusion. So how long exactly has the police investigation been going on for then?
Well, really, the RCMP say that there was investigations into the reports that they were receiving. Where they say they have already admitted that they may have been slow to act was in putting all of these pieces together and treating these separate incidents as one ongoing case, as one larger case. The Harbour Grace RCMP detachment, they say, is one of the busiest in the province. Already, again, other wildfires were happening, and officers from that region and that detachment had already been detailed to some of those other parts of the province. So that detachment was winged. Similarly, this case eventually gets handed over to the General Investigative Section in St. John's, where, again, they're bringing more resources to bear. But that is a unit that is supposed to have 8 officers staffing it, and last summer it only had 4. So once again, more police
Gowdy,
resources.
we're going to just take
please.
us now live to this press conference at the RCMP headquarters
the
in
RCMP
St.
in
John's.
Newfoundland and Labrador. In a moment, Inspector Adam Palmer, officer in charge of investigative support services, will provide an overview of the RCMP's investigation into the Conception Bay North 2025 interface wildfires. Following his prepared remarks, Inspector Palmer will remain at the podium to answer any questions you may have. With that, I'll hand it over, Inspector Palmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here today. As we near the 1-year anniversary of the wildfire in Conception Bay North, we wanted to provide you and our communities with an overview of our investigation to date. After that, I will answer any questions I can about the RCMP's ongoing wildfire investigation. A note before we start. We understand and respect the fire affected many communities, and we do not want to minimize the impact that this had across the Conception Bay North region. However, we also know that this particular fire is most commonly referred to as the Kingston wildfire, so I may be using that name throughout today's briefing. The police investigation into the origins of the fire remains active. The cause of the fire has not yet been conclusively determined, and no criminal charges have been laid to date. Over the past 11 months, the investigation into the cause of the fire has been led by the members of our Major Crimes Unit, with support of specialists, both internal and external to the RCMP. This includes, but is not limited to, forensic specialists, polygraph, experts in fire investigations and fire behavior, as well as investigators from other provinces who have experience leading these types of investigations. Our team remains committed to ensuring a fulsome and evidence-based investigation is completed. We continue to collaborate with the Provincial Resource Enforcement Division. The information and evidence they have collected while responding to and investigating other fires in the region last summer are important to our ongoing and active investigation. A number of individuals were brought to the attention of our investigators as possibly having direct knowledge of and/or involvement in these fires. This includes individuals who may have been in close proximity to one or more of the fires around the time a fire was reported. These individuals have all been thoroughly investigated and subsequently cleared as being involved in any of the reported fires. Our investigators are continuing to follow on every lead possible. We believe there may still be witnesses and people in our communities with information that have not yet spoken directly with police. Some of those who have spoken with our investigators have provided details or stories that were shared with them by friends or neighbors or even gleaned from social media. It is possible these details could be helpful to our investigation, but I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to contact police directly and file an official report so we may be able to separate fact from fiction. We know that in our small, close-knit communities, people may be nervous about coming forward and speaking to police. Our officers can provide support and assist as necessary with safety planning if you need to. So please, if you have any information and have not spoken to police, we ask that you contact the Harbour Grace RCMP detachment directly, contacting their non-emergency line, and they will put you in contact with one of our investigators. The phone number for Harbour Grace RCMP is 709-596-5014. The RCMP remains in close contact with the impacted communities to support their ongoing recovery efforts and to provide priority policing service across the Conception Bay North region. We know that many residents continue to grieve their losses and are facing ongoing challenges as a result of this devastating event. We know that our communities are eager for a clear and complete resolution, and quite frankly, they deserve it. Again, I cannot stress stress enough how important it is for us to pursue a full evidence-based investigation. Investigations of this scale are incredibly complex, and we cannot hope to provide our communities with that resolution unless we get it right. We understand it is frustrating to hear that we are still investigating, and we are limited in what we can share during this active investigation. Discussing or revealing details prematurely will negatively or could negatively impact our ability to conduct an investigation of this complexity. Rest assured, we are continuing to pursue every pathway forward and use every resource available to our investigation. If and when there is further news to share with our communities, we are committed to doing so as soon as possible. With that being said, I'm happy to take questions regarding the RCMP's investigation and provide any information that I am available to share.
You mentioned that a number of people have been interviewed and cleared. Is there anybody outstanding who hasn't been cleared? Anybody who might be considered a suspect?
There's several people who remain persons of interest for this investigation that we believe may have some knowledge of. But what I will say is several of the, I guess, more key names that have been in the media or in rumor mill, I guess, have been cleared.
Okay.
Are you able to say how many people, when you're talking about, have been looked at or cleared?
To protect the integrity of the investigation, I'm going to not answer that one, just because there are others that we still need to look at.
Approximately how many officers are dedicated to this investigation?
So we have our major crimes team, which is leading it. What we did recently, given the rash of violence events across the province, we redistributed our workload to ensure that our lead team is, this is their priority focus, this investigation.
So can you give an approximate number?
I can't give you an approximate number, but we do have the entire organization available at our fingertips if we need it.
Are you still looking at the police force's own response to this fire?
So part of our ongoing review is in collaboration with the province and our provincial partners is looking at our response and how together we can move forward and learn from our lessons last year.
And you concluded anything?
We've learned that as part of this review that there's always lessons learned and there's things that we can do better. We also learned that there's some best practices. That reviews are still ongoing in discussion with our partners, and we're working collaboratively with them.
Does it feel as though you're back to square one on this investigation now?
No, it doesn't feel like we're on, back to square one. It feels like we're moving forward. Every person that we cleared is a step forward because it's one less person that we have to look at.
How likely is it though, I mean, we're a year on and you say you don't have a suspect, how likely is it that this is going to be resolved?
This is incredibly complex. I can't give a likelihood of whether it'll be resolved or not. But what I do know is that at the end of the investigation, whatever the outcome is, we'll have as much and the most information that we have available to us.
We've heard a lot from residents out there about the fires that led up to the Kingston fire. Can you say how many fires are part of this investigation?
I can't say that because some of those fires are included in this ongoing investigation, but we do know that some of them have been investigated by our provincial partners and have been deemed not suspicious and not related.
Would that include the May 7th Adams Cove fire?
The May 7th fire was investigated by the Provincial Resource Enforcement Division. The information they shared with us was that no further police investigation was required. And as a result of how they came to that conclusion, I would refer questions to them.
Residents out there are understandably skeptical about that conclusion, given that there was another fire the day before that on May 6th in a similar area. They're frustrated to hear that that May 7th fire was considered, of no significant interest. Is there any chance that the RCMP would revisit that, given their skepticism?
We have to trust the opinions and reports of the experts in fire, wildfire management and behavior. If information comes forward that deems further scrutiny, we'll look at that. I recognize that sometimes we're not happy with the results that they are, but we have to trust, and we do trust our provincial enforcement agencies with that conclusion.
You talked about the review that's underway and best practices that you'd identified. Could you explain specifically what the best practices were followed or how
think should have gone differently?
Well, I think when we talk about best practices, some of the things that we know worked really well was the RCMP and our partner agencies like GEES, Ground Search and Rescue, local fire, about their ability to step forward and really present a surge capacity, bringing in resources from wherever they need to be. We learned some of the stuff a lot about, preparation in advance, which could help us in having a more timely response to the, supporting each other, whether it becomes an evacuation or not. Other aspects of best practices are still part of that ongoing review, and some of it is being worked out still.
Is the Kingston wildfire considered suspicious?
Yes.
But at this point, you can't conclusively say that it was an act of arson?
That's correct, right.
What leads you to believe it is suspicious?
Some of the information that we've received from community residents, some of the evidence that we've uncovered at the time, as well as are looking at patterns and behaviors in around the time that were occurring.
Do you believe that you've talked to everybody in that community that may have known something?
Absolutely not. That's why we're partly here today, is because there are people that we believe have information that would be valuable to our investigators. I believe that they've likely reported it or talked to somebody else in a position of authority, but they haven't spoken to the police. For example, if they reported it to 911 a wildfire, it may have been sent to another provincial agency and not the police if it wasn't deemed suspicious at the time. So if you haven't talked to one of our investigators, please reach out again and contact the Harbour-based RCMP, and they'll put you in contact with an investigator for this file.
In the wake of the wildfire, there was a rash of property offenses in the area, a lot of theft. Is there any reason to believe that, that could be connected to the fire in some way?
That's a good question. Right now, those are being treated as separate and being treated as people who took advantage of a disaster situation for their own benefit.
You mentioned some of the tools that were used, polygraph, investigators from other places. Is this, for an investigation this size, are these common things that are used in other investigations in this province, or how is this investigation unique?
So the complexity in itself is very unique. We're basically dealing with a crime scene that expands across the Conception Bay North region. Talking with fire experts and fire behavior, especially with respect to wildfire behavior, is unique to us. And then when we talked about forensic specialists outside the RCMP, if we don't have the tools internally, we have gone outside to experts wherever they are in North America who may have the tools to help us examine that evidence.
Some of the questions that come up when I interview people in CBN is like, why is this taking so long? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so this is taking a long time, again, because of the complexity. There's lots and lots of evidence for us to go through. And, we want to make sure we get it right to the best extent possible. And we want to make sure that if we determine that there's somebody to hold accountable, that any process that may subsequently follow, such as the court process, is successful as well.
We've spoken to residents out there who collected beer cans that they believed may have been used as incendiary devices. Can you say if any of those were sent away for any sort of testing, if there's any results in that?
I can't speak to what the results are, but I can tell you that any piece of evidence that we've seized has been prioritized for forensic analysis.
Can you, an arson charge, I guess, is one thing, but like if somebody, if you catch someone for the Kingston fire, is that what they're going to get, a charge of arson?
So the charge would be based on the evidence that's there, and in something of this complexity, we likely would reach out to Crown Counsel to get their support and opinion on what the most appropriate charge would be. The criminal code has a wide variety of charges which may be appropriate.
How easy is it going to be to move forward if people don't come forward with more information? Because have you maxed out, what you currently have without more information?
I wouldn't say we maxed out, but it's going to continue to be extremely difficult. And as we move forward, the lack of information and people coming forward is going to continue to present a challenge for us.
You said, I just want to make sure I understand. You talked about the number of individuals you investigated and cleared. Would you say that the investigation is sort of stalled again?
Absolutely not. The investigation's moving forward. I spoke to the investigator this morning. The team is doing a great job of moving and advancing that investigation. But again, that request for witnesses to come forward is really what we need. People to go on record.
Is this becoming more difficult as time passes?
Time is always difficult in police investigations. It's how we make use of that time that becomes important. Again, that's why we're reprioritizing how our distribution of workload was one of those things that we looked at to advance it.
How confident are you that this will come to a resolution?
I'm confident that our team is going to find out, and to the best of their abilities, find out a best, I guess, not situation, but they'll know as much as they know, but they obviously won't know everything.
I just think that's one thing about, I mean, the press conference today, bilingual organization, federal organization, not a single word of French, in front of the banner with an egregious error, the name of the province. How seriously does the RCMP and Newfoundland take its bilingual, its language rights obligations?
So we take it very serious. Today we're talking in English because the Conception Bay North region is primarily predominantly English speaking. I'd be happy to discuss afterwards with you and my media team about how we can better support the French language community in this province.
Are there any connections with this case to any other instances of arson that we've seen around the province in the last number of years? Any investigation, into whether or not this could be connected to anything else that we've seen?
So one of the things our investigators have done is that any time there's a report of an arson, regardless of the police force of jurisdiction, we reached out to the investigative team and looked to see if there's any commonality or linkages. And that's looking at everything from the individuals to the MO, to even if they're in the region at the time. So, but right now, to answer your question, there's no concrete direct connection.
Do you have any advice for people in CBN who are navigating losing everything and the grief and the anger that would come with that?
With losing everything?
Yeah.
I hope that, and I know that the communities are banding together and being supportive of one another. I hope that they're able to reach out and get the professional support that if they feel that they need it. Like I haven't gone through that myself, so I'm not going to put myself in their shoes and pretend I know what they're going through. But I think if they continue to be that close-knit community, support one another, and look at a path forward as opposed to a path behind them, that might help them.
All right, I think we'll end it there. Thank you very much, everybody.
So thank you very much.
Press conference at the RCMP headquarters in St. John's. We will bring you more in-depth coverage all throughout the day and this evening on CBC. Head to CBC.ca/NL or watch more tonight on Here and Now, which starts at 6:30 p.m. Island time, 6 o'clock in most parts of Labrador. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Colleen Connors in St. John's.